Presentation advantage. Don't get your hopes up. I had the opportunity to participate in the Presentation Advantage course by FranklinCovey. When asked what brought them to this training, many participants said that they had been issued a development goal in their annual performance reviews that necessitated this class to satisfy that requirement. One person said they were in the class by accident, having assumed it was something else. Still, there were a few that actually hoped that the course would help them overcome some pathology and make them into a presenter. Let's be clear, this course will not magically make anyone a presenter. But of course, being a presenter can seem like magic to those people who don't have it in them. Everyone knows the old joke that people are more afraid of public speaking than death. In most ancient cultures, it was a common social expectation for everyone to speak, recite artistic works, or even sing in front of the community. Somewhere along the way, the West became very self-conscious and afraid to be judged. This is a sign of a low-trust environment. The other expectations of this course are also in question. Not that there is nothing of any value, but because the course expectations are so unreasonably overconfident. In fact, the overstructuralization of the tips in this course can be counterproductive for those who would otherwise be proficient presenters. I'll break down for you just how wasteful courses like this can be. Scratches on paper. I got to see the moment my son learned how to read. It took about an hour. He had learned the letters, the sounds they make, and had memorized some sight words, but it was still to him just scratches on paper that didn't mean anything. He could see the word bed, and he had been made to memorize that was what it was, but not why. Yeah, there's an E in there. There's two of those things that are circles with lines on them. Sometimes that circle with a line is a B, a D, or a P. He hadn't picked up on the position of the line being the important part, let alone how the sounds of the letters come together. I looked into his eyes and tried to see how he was seeing it. Over the next hour, I worked out some tips for him to identify the right sound to choose for each letter, but that was trivial compared to the practice of cross-fading the sounds together. All his teachers had been so focused on executing their checklists, they hadn't successfully connected with their audience. He was stringing together the sounds of some arrangement of letters, and it had finally gotten monotonous enough that he wasn't too focused and overheard himself. He recognized a word from the sounds he was making, and bam! A switch got flipped. His eyes really did change, and he exclaimed, "Ooh!" Now he is a boy that can read. He started to show off what he could do. He loves that he can read. I bring this up to help set the stage to dispel a few things. On page 6 of the materials for this course, FranklinCovey promises that if you do all the things they teach you in this course, every one of your presentations will be successful. So, if you have a presentation that doesn't go well, it's your fault. You didn't believe hard enough. You need more of our training, so buy more of our courses and get a subscription. Just who are they to guarantee something like that? What is Covey trying to say about our company? In the course, we follow the story of Anna, a division manager, who will take a journey to become successful in presenting. Anna needs to convince executive management of the necessity to upgrade a legacy system. She presents her case to her director and some peers. She gives a technically coherent argument for what the business needs, but it doesn't go well. Life doesn't go well when the screenwriters are against you. During the meeting, her boss is at the back of the room, her peers are just waiting to get out of there, and there is no support. Afterward, Anna blames herself for not being emotive enough. The boss confronts Anna to tell her that, though Anna is the only one that could take this message to the suits, she doesn't want Anna anywhere near the suits. Thank you, but no thank you. Anna clearly hadn't heard that the showmanship and prescribed design of her presentation was more important than the message. What are they trying to tell us about Anna's employer? What are they trying to tell us about our employer? Fear! We'd rather the company take a financial loss than have you give a lousy presentation to the suits. You'd better take a Covey course. But that's not at all how the meeting with the suits went. She didn't have to corral the suits like she had her peers. She didn't have to hold their hands to get them to pay attention. Even though her updated presentation was Jabberwocky word salad, The suits patiently listened to the message she had to give them. Life goes pretty well when the screenwriters are on your side. Maybe that's why they are the suits. They aren't looking to supplant you. They are more interested in the message. They pay attention. They were the ones that understood what was important, so they were promoted up to be the suits. It's not your whole company that hates you. It's just middle management. They don't care about you. They just care about how you are going to make them look in front of the suits. Let me fix that for you. I'm going to assume that is not the message they intend to convey. So let me fix this problem with some simple rewriting. Anna starts her presentation, which doesn't get off to a good start. But lo, her boss is in the room. Anna's boss steps in to focus Anna's peers on the message. She has to participate in the presentation and augment a few things to help Anna get the details ironed out. After the presentation, Anna's boss comes to her and says, "Anna, this is important. The suits really need to hear this. I could take it to the suits because that's my job, but I see potential in you. This is your message. You saw this and did all the work. This could be a real opportunity for you. You just need to brush up on your presentation skills, and I'll put you in front of the suits. After all, you could be one of those suits one day." Isn't that a better way to have initiated the call to adventure for Anna? In this version, Anna's boss is supportive and not just a passenger. The company cares more for the business than pizzazz. Anna's growth is more about how she can help the company and not about shedding the disdain of her coworkers. The crux of the matter. As part of the course, each participant was required to give a presentation to the rest of the class to demonstrate what they had learned. Back in that second video about Anna, when she was presenting to the suits, that was the moment that I decided my presentation was going to be about this course itself. This was met with confused looks and an eventual sidebar with the instructor to see just what I was up to. At the beginning of the class, the instructor remarked how she loves FranklinCovey courses because their materials are so fancy. As the self-proclaimed economist, all I heard was expensive. Covey courses are expensive. They always come with extravagant books, a deck of flashcards, and other nifty tchotchkes. The whole FranklinCovey business is dependent on their presentation of materials for their courses. They developed a course specifically about presentation that features a presentation in which the hero of our story is giving a presentation at the culmination of her journey to grow in the skill of presentation. And it is in that moment the actor playing Anna had to hesitate and look at the presentation slide to remember her line. She was meant to be highlighting some metric that had degraded down to, let's see, what was it? Oh yeah, 19. Nonsense. Now, this course perpetuates some of the most common delusions pushed by charlatans and behavioral analysts. That folding your arms must mean that you are unengaged and defensive. That hands behind your back must mean that you're hiding something. That hands in pockets must mean that you have no confidence or credibility. The rule of thumb here is to make sure your hands are where I can see them and your elbows are out. "Jim, why are you happy? He just said our department's project is being shut down." But his elbows. The chief misconception in this story is the juvenile supposition that 55% of communication is body language, 38% is tone of voice, and only 7% is what you actually have to say. Again, this is why the suits are the suits. They are different than us, paying attention to the important part. By endorsing the 7% trope as though it applies to everything, Covey is essentially saying we are all such simpletons that a presentation not being entertaining enough is sufficient excuse for us not listening to the meaning. Substantiation. When the actor playing Anna hesitated, suggesting that Anna was unfamiliar with her presentation in the scene where she should be at the top of her game, someone directing the scene decided to cut, print, wrap. There was no need to reshoot. Someone in the editing room decided not to cut to a reaction shot of one of the suits for the handful of frames that Anna was searching the screen. There was no need to cover up that error. Someone decided to greenlight shipping the video with tens of thousands of packets for companies like ours to train staff. Those plebeians are only aware of the 93% anyway. No need to explain away Anna's gaffe. Just like how Franklin Covey didn't think the story through enough to avoid making middle management look self-serving, they failed here to see the opportunity to master their message. But hey, they technically did it with their elbows out. Another interesting side note is that we were taught in the course that it is settled consensus that you must only use sans serif fonts in your slide deck. Under no circumstances use serif fonts. Yet in the course materials, looking at the before and after images of Anna's presentation slide deck, she had transitioned from sans serif to serif. We share some of the responsibility. I found myself asking why we put IT people into these kinds of courses anyway. Anna's boss could have presented to the suits. We have folks who are already good at presenting. How much of this is to standardize a formula for presentations because the people receiving them aren't catching the meaning? We're taking IT people, a group notoriously identified as introverted, putting them in training that teaches them to be afraid to give bad presentations, and we tell them that it doesn't matter what they have to say. The part they really need to be self-conscious about is everything about how they stand, where their hands are, and how they sound. All this because we don't promote a high-trust culture that overlooks the superficial? You had it with you all along. While there are nifty tips that can help an unorganized presenter take more of a command of their content, it is important to know you can have a perfectly successful presentation while breaking every single one of their rules. Likewise, you can do all of the processes laid out in the course and have a presentation fail spectacularly. Practice will help one to get more fluid, but overcoming any social pathology to become a presenter is a switch one must flip in their mind. When you flip the switch, your brain steps back and says, "Okay, I guess we're doing this now." Until that switch is flipped, however, these tips might as well be scratches on paper that don't mean anything. The more important thing is to have something coherent to say. There was a politician that was known to be a top-tier presenter, expert in all the tricks. Whether you liked the politician or not, you couldn't deny the confidence. But we can all admit that if the message isn't thought through, it can do more harm than good. The politician wanted to take a shot at the other guy. The other guy was rising in the polls, but the politician thought his policies were ridiculous. The politician gave a speech saying that the other guy was promising to give out impossible things as though he was the Wizard of Oz. That was a peculiar choice, specifically to reference the part of the movie where the wizard was giving gifts. Sure, the tchotchkes he handed out were worthless, but that isn't all he gave the adventuring party. He gave them revelation. Revelation that what they were looking for wasn't something he could give, but was inside of them. Scarecrow, you were already smart. You just don't have this silly piece of paper that says as much to people who don't know any better. Tinman, you have more heart than most people know what to do with. People who don't have it don't know what it looks like. So here's a heart-shaped clock. They won't know the difference. And Lion, being afraid, but doing the right thing anyway, is the definition of courage. But once again, all those 93%ers that focus on everything except the meaning need some visual cue to handhold them to how they should see you. So here's a shiny piece of metal to help protect your vital organs. Oddly enough, the other guy that politician was up against wasn't promising to give people things from the government, but instead was promising to get government out of the way of the people doing for themselves. The other guy was actually doing what the wizard had done. The attack backfired, and the politician lost to the other guy. More conspicuously, when the class began, one participant, the one taking the course by accident, was an established presenter in a role specifically for presenting. Another participant was one whose role in the company was not one generally expected to present, but he had been sentenced to the course because he had been made to present in a meeting, and his manager told him he was bad at it. The established presenter had been in meetings with the non-presenter and told the class that the non-presenter was actually very good at presenting. When it came to the course participants' presentations to the class, the established presenter had to constantly refer to his notes and was confusing, but the non-presenter was captivating and confidently knowledgeable. This course had next to nothing to do with the ultimate capabilities of the participants, where simply having the opportunity had exposed those who had the presentation advantage. Conclusion. My points are these. 1. This course will not transform you into a presenter. Practice will help until you flip that switch in your brain. 2. For the cost, we should expect more from FranklinCovey courses. They need to think things through before presenting. 3. We might take the opportunity to think about who we send to these courses and why. Not every role needs to be proficient in presentation. 4. Pay attention to what's important. The more we focus on the meaning of the message, the less self-conscious the presenter has to feel about the trivial stuff. 5. Keep your elbows out. Epilogue. Since my presentation to the class challenged the content of the course, it raised some eyebrows. The instructor's note to me on my presentation admitted that my argument was well thought out, but another participant wrote anonymously that they were anxious about the challenge. There was even a question from another participant as to whether I was saying the class was without value, to which I reiterated that it does indeed have value for those who have it in them to be a presenter. After the class, the instructor explained that the materials for this course were to be phased out at the end of the year. The expectation was that the new content will address the flaws in this version. I told the instructor and my manager that I planned to reach out near the end of the year to see if I could help give feedback on the new content. I thought I could help the training department see potential opportunities to augment the presented materials to give a more positive impression and prepare them for questions the course designers didn't consider. The instructor acted excited and accepting of this, and my manager had no concerns. Here I was thinking I was being an industrious participant, taking initiative to have a discussion with an instructor. 3 months later, I'm in the interrogation room as though I had crossed the KGB. My initial meeting request was met with the instructor asking me to explain my motivations. When I replied that I was simply making a friendly request to discuss having a positive impact with training, the instructor, without notice or explanation, forwarded the request to her managers and director. After the instructor's manager accepted the meeting, the instructor declined the meeting, again with no explanation. What am I supposed to take from this behavior? I suggested earlier in this paper that the presentation of this course could contribute to the development of a low-trust environment. Now this behavior seems to confirm it. Was it that the instructor suspects that I'm up to some sort of male factor plot? Was it that the instructor is not qualified or authorized to have an opinion on the topic? It certainly wasn't because the instructor wanted to share with her management that here was this intrepid participant who should be commended for his trailblazing. An insider leaked to me parts of the discussions about me that were taking place in the training department behind my back. One argument was that I was trying to undermine the course. I pointed out that the evidence shows the question had been asked and answered in front of the whole class. One argument was that no one knew why I was requesting a meeting. I pointed out that I had told both my manager and the instructor of my intent to offer feedback. One argument went as far as to declare it was offensive for me to have used the word help when I offered to provide another perspective on the content, because it implied that they were incapable on their own. Aside from the irony of that argument, to get to a point where an offer to be of service is not just declined, but retaliated against, is not good. My management wanted me to cancel the meeting and drop it. I insisted that now I even more wanted to have the meeting. Now that there have obviously been secret discussions about me without my ability to defend myself, it is clear that the portrayal of me in those discussions was troublesome. I cautioned that without a remedy of the right to discovery, the right a defendant has to the case being made against him, the low-trust environment spreading from the training department will only get more toxic. My management avoided speaking about this for a few days and then doubled down on dropping the issue. In dropping the issue, I was assured by my manager that there was no need to worry about it and it wouldn't come up in the future. Unfortunately, however, it came up again at annual review time and has been used several other times since to allege deficiencies on my part in dealing with people. The conversations about me behind my back has poisoned other interactions with the training department. I was sentenced to more emotional intelligence training and personal development, though training staff avoided interacting with me by instead assigning me a book.